Welcome to the Sheff United Way. My name is Hal, and today I have been doing wrist exercises so that I can lift up a very weighty tome. It is a wonderful coffee table book, Legends at the Lane. Of course, you can read it at any table, and I'm very pleased to say that I have the two men responsible for it joining me on the programme now. One of whom I think many will be familiar with, Danny Hall. First off, how are you?
Good, thank you. How are you?
I'm really pleased that you've been able to join me on what looks like you're being held captive against your will in a darkened cellar. Are you all right?
This is where I do my best work. This is locked away in a darkened room. Sometimes it feels better to be away in a darkened room, but no, it's great to be
understand.
here. Thanks for having us.
To say, Danny, this has been a long time coming as well. I've been trying to get you on the channel for let's call it 9 years, but it's good to have you here now. Thank you.
Wow. No worries. Thank you for having us.
But you're not alone. Pete O'Leary. Look at that backdrop. How are you, Pete?
Very well, thank you. Nice to see you. How are you doing?
Do we all have today's chosen text with us, ready for our lecture?
Always.
Look at this. Oh, that's great. That better in rehearsal, Danny. That's good. This is, I'm just going to say, absolutely not only visually beautiful, stunning. I'm going to use that word, but it's really well written. Particularly love the foreword by Dino. I mean, what a legend. That's why it's Legends at the Lane. I think it's only right that we pretend I know nothing about this book and get Danny to explain for everyone that's not familiar with it. Legends at the Lane. Danny, tell me about the book, please.
Right, here we go. So yeah, essentially, as you touched on before, a coffee table style book. What we wanted to do was capture, I'll put it on the back cover, it sounds a little bit corny, but the fabric of Sheffield United, literally and figuratively as well. It's a compilation of shirts from United's history, but we wanted to make it more than that as well. We didn't want it to just be a, page after page of shirt after shirt after shirt, which on first glance is what it turned out to be. But we wanted to sort of capture the stories behind the shirts, if that makes sense. We wanted to capture the players who wore them, because if anyone is the same as me, I know Pete thinks this as well, when you see a football game, the first thing you see is the literal shirts the players are wearing. That's just the first thing that you see. But when you see a shirt from 20 years ago, 30 years ago, however long ago, it brings back the memories of the players that you watched wearing it. It brings back the games that you've seen the players wear, and it's more than just a piece of polyester or a piece of cotton that players put on and put off. It's the memories and the sort of how it made you feel, all that kind of stuff. And that's what we wanted to try and capture in the book, the stories behind the players who wore them, not just what whether they like to wear the shirts or not, what it meant to pull on that football shirt, because football clubs, they all mean something different. I think every football club means something different to its supporters. They have different traditions and different histories and different emotional connections with the fans, and I think that's what we wanted to try and pull on. What does this shirt mean to Sheffield United fans? What does this shirt mean to the players who wore them? And along the way, we managed to get our hands on some pretty remarkable bits of this club's history as well, because going back to cup finals that were 100 years ago, these shirts still exist, they're still out there, and the tangible reminders of what this club's done, where this club has been. The remarkable people, the remarkable players that have been lucky enough to pull on that shirt, because we've never been able to do that, and they've all had the pleasure and the privilege to do that. So we wanted to sort of capture the few highs and the many lows of this football club. But it is a special, obviously we're biased, we're all Sheffield United fans on this podcast. It is a special football club. It's had some special people, some special times, and we try to sort of capture that in a way that's not been done before. There's history books galore, on football, on Sheffield United, but there's nothing, quite like this that sort of captured as I say, the fabric and the essence of the football club. So that's what we tried to do, bring it all together in a visually appealing way. Let's say there's been some absolutely cracking kits. There's been some absolute shockers going back through, but they've all had that sort of the rose and on the swords on the left breast, and that's what ultimately that's what it's all about.
Yeah, very successfully put together. You're right, we've had some shockers. They may or may not be some behind me. Pete,
Some are, yeah.
how does a collaboration like this work? And also, Pete, if you wouldn't mind just explaining your role, because I think a lot of people know Danny as a writer.
Well, it come together. I've known Danny for a long time. And he collects shirts, same as me, which when you find out, there's a lot of people that do. It seems to be one of them that nobody really knows, but a lot of people do seem to collect them. And Danny mentioned it to me a good few years ago now, actually. What would I do about, how would I feel about making a book about them all? And I was amazed. I was like, that's the best thing I've ever heard. That'd be brilliant. That'd be amazing. I was well up for it. My only fear was although I've got quite a few, between myself and Danny, we had quite a few, and I'm thinking, but there's going to be so many shirts that are missing from it. And I think if you're going to do it, you've got to do it right and literally, you know, have it from that date to that date, full the way through every one. Luckily, via many people that crawled out from under rocks and woodwork that had all got these shirts that were all missing. So in the end, we managed to piece it all together. Well, Danny did. I basically talked and Danny wrote, basically. That was it. Danny asked me a question about that. I rattled, which I can rattle about football shirts for hours. Danny wrote it all and put it all together, and that's the finished article. That's how it came about, really.
Which is really a snapshot of my life, to be fair. People rattle on. I rattle that, you know, that's how it is. But you touched on it before, Hal, you know, the people who put this book together, me and Pete. But as he touched on there's so many more people that helped with this. It was a remarkable, it's the biggest cliche in it to sit here and go, it was a team effort. But the amount of people who helped, I struggled in the back of it. I put a bit like an acknowledgement section together, and I thought these people I forgot about here because there were so many people who contributed, you know, either a great deal or even just one shirt to help us sort of plug a gap. So yeah, it was a remarkable team effort, and yeah, when you finally see it in your hand, it was a nice moment after the months and years of hard work.
Yeah, quite right. I didn't realise it was years. I mean, that gives you an idea, people. If you're thinking of putting a book together, it doesn't just happen. Who came up with the name for the book, Danny? Was that one of yours?
I believe so. Was that right, Pete?
It was. Yeah, you basically fired it straight at me. I think you'd had a few ideas, and then you fired that one at me, and the font as well, which captured the 𝗲𝗄𝗏 sponsor and the Ward sponsor. Straight away, I just went, yeah, that's it. Don't start thinking of anything else. Don't try and change it. That's it. Go with that. That's perfect. It's exactly what it is. So it was perfect.
All right,
that
Pete,
was probably the most straightforward bit.
Or Wards?
Me, I'm 𝗲𝗏𝗏. Probably show me age, but there you go.
Well, Danny, because I reckon your first season, from what it says in the book, was when we were wearing Wards.
Correct.
So that means you might be a Wards man.
100%. 100%.
There we go. Well, this is good, having a bit of Billy balance. So, Danny, right at the start, the introduction has a lovely story about a photograph, Danny, that you found by chance. Rather than me tell it, Paulie, would you like to tell us about that story? Because I think it's a really, really beautiful way to open the book.
Yeah. So obviously I'm a book publisher. I did a book a few years ago by John Garrett, which is a name that United fans will be obviously familiar with, Folklore and Fables 2. And as part of that, as part of Johnny's various musings, he sent me a ton of pictures to kind of accompany it. And there's one there of 𝗲𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏. Now, everyone, I touched on earlier about the memories and stuff. Everyone has their first hero, don't they? Everyone remembers that first time you saw Bramall Lane, the kind of first hero that you picked upon. And I don't know if it's because we used to sit on the second row of the family stand on the halfway line. It might have just been that 𝗲𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏 was the first player I ever saw because he played right back. It could be as simple as that. But for whatever reason, I was absolutely obsessed with him. And I badgered my mum and dad for the white away kit, which I don't think is not behind you. I can't see it. The white Wards away kit.
Do you know where it is?
My
sister's got it.
Oh, she's got good taste.
Yeah.
And so I badgered them to get the kit, and I had to get the name on the back. I think to have his name on the back cost more than the actual kit itself at the time. I was looking through this picture of Johnny Garrett. Saw 𝗲𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏 is there, and I saw to the left Nicky Marker, and next to him is a guy with curly hair. And I thought, my dad used to have that haircut, and looked in next to him. There's a really blurry image, but to me, it's crystal clear. And that's me wearing the shirt of 𝗍𝗿𝗂𝗏𝗂𝗃, clapping away after he scored against Sunderland. So I had to have it in the book because obviously, you know, kind of got that story across. And yeah, that was my first sort of, that was my first football shirt, essentially. That was my first sort of connection with Sheff United. And yeah, I think that's what the shirts do. It's your sort of connection with the club, isn't it? That's the closest you get to wearing it and kind of experiencing what the players do on a match day. You're sort of representing your club when you wear the colours and the badge on the chest. So yeah, that's in there on
Have you got
5,
that? I mean, I was going to say, if you got page 5 to hand, I know some people were listening to this as an audio podcast, so you'll just have to buy the book. But there's 𝗏𝗏, there's Nicky Marker, player of the season, if my memory serves me correctly, at one point, and there's Danny Hall in what looks like quite a large white away shirt, and looking so happy. If anyone ever accuses Danny on Twitter of not being a real blade, you only need to see that picture.
Yeah. And then opposite it, there's a picture of me and Pete, 20, 25 years later, talking of large pictures. Me on that one with Morgan Gibbs-White.
I mean, it's brilliant, that. Absolutely brilliant, that picture.
Passage of time. But yeah, that was my sort of experience in there. I want to get the personal experience in there as well, you know, why we're doing this. You know, that was, I think I went alone as a kid, used to design my own football kits.
We all did.
You know, my own United ones. Yeah, it's always been a sort of real interest. I don't know why. Maybe it's just because the first time I held one in my hands as a kid, I just got them, you know, those feelings and everything. So maybe that's why it stuck with me all these years. And if you told me then that in 25 years' time I'd be writing a book like this on shirts, then I'd probably laughed at you. But yeah, here we are.
Yeah, this book will outlast all of us, and so that's something that you should be, you know, justifiably proud of, both of you. And maybe just Danny, a word on Martin Harrison, United's late club photographer, whose photos are amongst a plethora of magnificent memories. Yeah,
100%. Baldy was a really top man. I don't think anyone who met him or knew him will have anything really to say otherwise. Massive Blades fan, a huge Blades fan. And yeah, it was a pleasure. I've got to thank Kevin Cookson at United for that as well. It was a pleasure to have his pictures sort of accompanying some of the shirts. You know, when you've done the job as long as he had the dream job, really, Baldy. You know, living the dream, following United up and down the country, having a good time doing it, and obviously sadly taken too soon. But it's nice that, not to get too cheesy about it, but his sort of work lives on in print, if that doesn't sound too cheesy to say.
Well, it's true.
It's nice to have, it's nice to have his pictures alongside, you know, because he just did it for so long that, you know, there's not much that he missed. So yeah, a pleasure to have his pictures alongside so many others.
Now, one of you can try and find an example of this, but Pete, one of the things I really love in this book, and it's one of the reasons I think people just have to see it, is the mock-ups. To describe that better, never used kits. For example, you know, there's a couple for the Umbro-led 94-95 season that I seem to recall in here. So for the people who haven't seen it yet, Pete, the mock-ups. Talk to me about them. I mean, does every kit manufacturer make lots of different mock-ups that never get released, and somehow you guys just manage to get access to them?
Yeah, that's generally what happens. Most manufacturers, obviously, your Umbro, your Adidas, there's Danny's got them. I mean, look at
one of those, by the way, significantly better than the other. the mesh at the top half.
You can get some bad ones, can't you? So yeah, I think every manufacturer does it, and then obviously they'll send the club 3-4 different variations, and then it's up to the club to decide on which ones they want to go. I think at some point we had it where it was like a bit of a, fans could vote.
I remember that.
Yeah. So sometimes they put it out to the fans. I think one of the other ones was the horrific diamond shirt. Well, some people say it's horrific, some people like it, but I think that was one where that was one of an option. And I think it was Dave Bassett, was it, that decided to go with that one. So obviously it'd have been interesting to see the other ones that would have been the option. that made somebody choose the diamonds over a red and white striped shirt. But yeah.
We can only imagine. There was a theory, wasn't there, sort of debunked, that 𝗍𝗿𝗱𝗶𝗲 himself, sat down with a pen and paper and designed it. It wasn't quite like that, as you say, but maybe he was just showing it and was really busy sorting out a transfer. And yeah, that's fine. And here we are, all these years later. Danny, do you want to add anything to the diamond shirt story?
I think that should be left in the past.
Yeah, probably.
I think the biggest shock.
It was my first ever shirt, the diamond one. So that's actually, for me, very, very special.
It's certainly different, isn't it? I mean, people every year we have this debate about what can you do with red and white stripes, and the wrong answer is let's change them to diamonds. But the fact that Berwick Rangers had the exact same kit in the same template, and nobody really seems to know that. Everyone's like,
well, you say nobody.
I
spent quite a long time. Let me just rephrase this. I spent far too long when I compiled on Sheff United Way Twitter template kits that had been used by other clubs that were the same as Sheffield United. It must have taken me the longest of anything I've ever done on social media. Got about 4 likes, total waste of time. And one of them was that Berwick kit, which I think was like brown and yellow or something.
Yeah, it was even more, they somehow made it even more horrendous. Although you say that, the brown and yellow combination for the 81 away kit is still, I wasn't born then, but that's still my favourite ever Sheffield United kit. Possibly because it's so horrendous. It's good, but I just can't get enough of it. I think it's absolutely beautiful.
One of my questions, Danny. I already know it from the book, but so I'll just say to Pete, while we've had that there, Pete, what's your favourite away shirt of all time?
Favourite away shirt? I always find that question very, very difficult, because you can have your favourite, but memories can sometimes take over, and then all of a sudden a shirt can come along and it has different memories, and all of a sudden you've got a new one. But this one.
It's hard to do on this thing, isn't it? To point things behind you. I do it wrong all the time.
Yeah, that one there. That one holds the best memories for me. I remember as a kid, I wore it to school the following day after we won over at 𝗍𝗿𝗱𝗶𝗲 3-1. And obviously the memories that shirt brings, that's it. It sticks. I know a lot of people go with the one before that, which was Leicester, obviously. The yellow and brown one seems to split opinion. Then you go more modern times. You've got the Illuminous one, and you think of Bash scoring at Leeds and sliding straight on the floor, and straight away a corker of a shirt and the memories that it holds. So for me personally, the yellow one, 92, 93, that's the one for me.
I will have to ask you then, Pete, this season, when we're recording this, the 23-24 season, because, YouTube, timeless, the yellow away shirt that Sheffield United are wearing this season, could that potentially be one that we are talking about in a few years' time? Not for the memories, I wouldn't have thought, but just as of how it looks as a really great away shirt. Again,
yeah. It's when we did the book, obviously we interviewed various people. Myself and Danny had a chat with Dane Whitehouse, who was my hero growing up, and I think he summed it up perfectly when he was talking about his favourite shirts and this, that, and the other. And we mentioned that one, obviously, with him scoring in a big game, and he said straight away, he said that's the Sheff United away shirt, and that was it. And you didn't really need to say any more. You just knew. It was just the colour scheme, the way it was. That's the Sheff United away shirt. And I think this season's again, it's right. It's yellow. It's got a little bit of black on it, a little bit of red. That's it, nice and simple. And it seems to work. And it always seems to be a Sheff United shirt. Same with home ones. I think if you've always got the bit of black, it becomes a Sheff United shirt. As soon as you take away the black, you end up looking like Stoke. You look something like that, and all of a sudden the shirt can be completely different, and it just doesn't resemble a Sheff United shirt. So,
okay. So then, Pete, if I was to say to you, what's your favourite home shirt?
Again, it's behind me. They're both behind me for a reason. Although memories.
So for those listening on audio podcast.
Yes, of course. 92 to 94, the Umbro with the lace up. Again, some bad memories if you think about it. Some of the relegation at Chelsea. lost an FA Cup semi-final wearing it. So there's a few bad memories in that, but for some unknown reason, that one seems to just, it stood the test of time, and everybody, even people that were not born back then, you know, they'd still wear the retro versions now, and they'll look at it and be like, wow, look at that one shirt, and they'll be buying it now. So for me, that one again, and it's got a labour on the front, so it always wins, doesn't it?
And then, Danny, same question for you. Favourite home shirt?
Ooh, that is tough. That is tough. I really liked, it's going to sound really boring, I'm starting recency bias here, but last season's I really enjoyed. I really liked last season. I thought that was the right number of stripes, a little bit of pinstripe in between, stripes on the back, which of course was a bone of contention for a few years during the Adidas years. There were some stinkers during that time. The one that made us look like Derby from the back, that was not good. Or the League One promotion season, sorry, I should say. I enjoyed that one as well. That with a little bit of black would have been perfect. I think the one over Pete's right shoulder, the sort of Bayern Munich template, who they used it last week, I like that because of the black again. It's a debate that I enjoy every year when people say whether pinstripes or not, and it looks like a Stoke kit or it looks like a Sunderland kit or whatever. But
Danny, serious, journalistic question for you. When you are writing match reports or you're sat next to commentary pals, do you not think that if it's a plain back, you can read names and numbers far easier?
Yeah, 100%. From if I separate personal and professional views, it's a far easier. I remember last season when Blackburn came to Bramall Lane, I could not tell them apart because the numbers were horrendous on the sort of striped.
Yeah, and I took
whatever it was.
I took my cousin's lad to his first ever game, and it was that one. And he mentioned exactly that. Like he could not tell who any Blackburn player. Not that really matters, but you're absolutely right.
Horrendous. So from a professional point of view, it makes it a hell of a lot easier. But from a shirt lover point of view or a personal point of view, I'm much prefer the stripes.
We've had some bad ones. I mean, Sean Derry cutting the collar of the 1999-2000 Blade shirt after finding it too restrictive. I recall Curtis Woodhouse doing the same thing to a very tight collar. That shirt with Blades as a sponsor. I mean, Pete, have you ever heard of another club being sponsored by themselves?
No, not off the top of my head, and I think there's reasons why.
Yeah,
especially the way that we seem to do it with that arched little thing, and it looked a mess.
Because for those that are too young, I remember I was one of the people that paid into this sponsorship, and you got given a number, and you got to meet a player and get a photo with them, and you chose your favourite player. I think I chose Curtis Woodhouse, but I remember Lee Sanford came out just before, and only one person had chosen him. And I felt so bad. But yeah, that was certainly odd, and not a great kit, I don't think, personally, to accompany that, which kind of leads me beautifully on to Danny. Worst home kit.
Let me come back to you. Go to Pete first.
Pete, worst home kit while Danny takes quite a sharp intake of breath.
There's been some bad ones. 2004 home wasn't great. And be quite controversial as well. The 1990 to 91 home.
Is that the pinstripe? The pinstripe one. I was literally just thinking that. I was thinking that's what I'm going to say, and then he stole my thunder.
It's the one that United have just re-released.
Yeah. Okay. It's a strange one. I mean, each to their own, and football shirts. That's the good thing about them. Some people love them, some people hate them. And I always find that one, especially when you watch an old program on the telly where you're watching it, and it just looks pink from the distance. You can't define any sort of stripes, and then when you get close up, all the tiny little pinstripe. I weren't a fan of that, and I try my best to like it because it's got some good memories. But for some reason, it don't stick with me, that one. But I mean, there's a lot worse. There's a lot worse than that. Don't get me wrong. The diamonds is interesting, shall we say? But no, I think the 2004 𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏 sportif home shirt, and the one before it as well.
The Daysun one.
Yeah, the decent one where it just got too much white going off, and we ended up wearing white shorts and socks. And yeah, I weren't a fan with that. It was just too much white. And yeah, but again, it's always each to their own. Some people will love that, and they'll hate me for saying what I did.
Well, it's synonymous with the triple assault season, ultimately completely fruitless season. Danny, for you, you've had time to think.
Yeah, as I said, Pete's completely stole my thunder there, because I'm going to agree with him completely. I was just
thinking.
He
didn't steal your thunder. I went to you first.
Yeah, true. Yeah, good point. Good point. The 2003 one, I'm just looking now. It's. I remember having it as well, and I don't know what it was made of, but it was some sort of space age material where it felt about 6 inches thick, and like even in, you know, I remember wearing it in the height of winter and stuff, absolutely sweating in it really, because it was just so warm. And
I don't know why I brought it to Cyprus.
Yeah, speaking to Chris Morgan about it, the sort of 𝗬𝗏, you know, the sponsorship, he likened it to an armor plate on the front, because it was just absolutely ridiculously, you know, thick and heavy. And the one after it, I think they went too far the other way by making the one after it too red. The first one was too white, as Pete said. The one after, with the red shorts and socks, was too red again. I just, for a few years, they got it wrong. And the one after the promotion season, I think that was a welcome return. I think let's say, and obviously it has happy memories as well, apart from the a bit of blue on the sponsor. But apart from that, that was a good return. So yeah, I'd probably say those two in recent memory are my least favourite. But I agree with the candy stripe one as well. It just doesn't seem like a Sheffield United kit to me. I feel like you have to have a certain sort of, it's going to sound really, really sad now, but a certain width of stripe, I think, to make it a Sheffield United kit.
Well, the bit of blue that Danny's talking about is not a Peter Kay joke for any of the youngers. It's actually HFS Loans that you are referring to. Not that I wish to mention all the sponsors. However, if any of them are watching, we are always welcome to sponsorship on this particular channel, and I will, for a price, be very complimentary about pretty much any brand. Now, let's talk about worst away shirts, as I try not to sound too partridge. Pete, what about your worst away shirt?
Worst away shirt. I couldn't get on with that purple one that we had recently. Was it 17, 18?
So the teletext holidays sponsor,
yeah,
I believe.
That's the one. Yeah. I don't know why. I suppose I'm a bit traditionalist with my kits, and I like a Sheff United away kit to look like a Sheff United away kit, and that would just, I don't know.
I'm with you on that. I didn't buy it, so yeah, I go along with that.
The yellow and purple 𝗍𝗍𝗂𝗏 as well. So, nah, not for me. Not for me. But again, I think some people think that's great, but nah.
Did you two have a dispute in the book, because it says yellow and blue brackets purple, and it's like you two couldn't agree on what colour it is?
It's like the old purple dress, isn't it? No one really seems to know what exactly what it is. Apart from, I don't think we could bring ourselves to admit it was blue.
I mean, it is purple. I don't think there's any real debate. I mean,
it's purple.
It just is. It's purple.
It's purple.
Okay, some interesting choices. I agreed with you. Just don't like purple. I think that's been clear.
No, you've got it in one. I'm not.
He hates Fiorentina. I don't like blue either. Danny, what about your worst away kit? We've heard about your favourite.
Just looking over your left shoulder there, that pink one was not. I know it was a bad season, and I know it sold like hotcakes as well. But it was just it just wasn't for me. This is going to sound again really sad. The sponsors are so low on it. It just looked really strange. It just looked like a mistake every time they wore it.
Yeah, compare it exactly as you mention it, right, with the one I've got directly above, which is the Capital One shirt from the I believe the Premier League season. Look how high the sponsor is. This is for those watching on YouTube, compared with the USG. It's night and day, and it's actually something, until you pointed out, that I've never noticed.
So these are things that saddos like us who write books about football shirts. These are things that people like us.
Well, Pete's left in disgust.
Yeah, that's how much you don't like it.
He feels very strongly about sponsorship placement. Clearly.
Too right. Looking back now through the kits, 2013-14 away, which was a strange sort of striped yellow Macron thing that just didn't really seem to work. Had a different shape, different colour each side of the collar. Just didn't seem to work. I get why, and they have done a few that have done really well, but every time they try and do a sort of remake of the classic 𝗍𝗿𝗍 1990 luminous one, apart from the one that's over your right shoulder, which I think they did well. I just don't think they've ever sort of got it right somehow. It's never quite hit the spot for me. But yeah, to be fair, there's been some classics. To be fair, I'm just looking through the book now. They have done a few of the sort of luminous ones which have done well. Obviously, the Basham's arriving one, you know, sticks in your mind. Agree on the purple. It just seemed a little bit too light blue to me, and I don't think there were certain people at the club who didn't like it either, which is why it got quickly sacked off for that white third shirt, which I really liked, and it was really classic.
I think we wore that at Forest away. Might have been the first.
Yeah,
time.
the first time. Yeah, I got a text from Pete in the car down saying, "Where's this come from?"
We've had that historically in the past. There was a 𝗍𝗿𝗍𝗶 white kit, I believe, worn maybe even only been once. I mean, Pete, you'll probably know the one I'm talking about.
Yeah. I believe it come in towards the end of the 89 season where we had the Illuminous away, and I'm sure I read it somewhere, and I'm sure we put it in the book because we found it out that it was something to do with a clash with the stewards. Yes. And I think the referees or somebody was saying that they didn't want us wearing that. So I think Umbro had to knock up just any old template shirt that they got. Obviously, put the 𝗍𝗿𝗍𝗶 on, put the United badge on, and they sent us to use that for a period of time. I can't remember the exact amount of games, but it weren't many. There's Danny with it there, look. Yeah.
That's exactly the one.
Very standard Umbro template. One game.
One game. Yeah, I thought it was one game as well. Yes, I remember reading
Sunderland away.
Sunderland, yeah.
Somehow, so of these shirts, there are 16 in existence in the world. And wow. we kind of sat down at the start of the book and said, listen, there's some here that we're not going to get hold of because they've been worn once. There are 20 of them in the world, and somehow we managed to find someone who had one.
How much would one of those do you think be worth, Danny?
How deep are your pockets? I mean, as I said, it's one of 16 in the world. It's a shirt that never went on sale. I know, speaking to Andy Dakin, who used to be the commercial director, he said they were getting pressure. They were getting pressure from fans to sell them, and they were going to Umbro and they said, "Listen, we just don't have them. Not like now, where they just knock them up, you know, from a rare or whatever." Umbro went to the factory in Manchester, wherever it was, and he said, "There's 20 shirts in a box. You can have them. When they're gone, they're gone." And somehow we've managed to rescue one for the book. But there's quite a few of those oddities, those one-offs. You know, there's every shirt that they've worn in this book from the late 70s, even the ones that were worn in literally one game. We've somehow managed to find an example of them. So
well done. But there is a more recent one actually, Danny. The third shirt from 2010-11. Tell me about that enigma.
Remind me which one that is. Honestly, I've been it's absolutely shirt crazy in my mind, and I'm struggling to separate them all.
Pete, you know the one I'm talking about.
The black one.
All black. Yeah, that's a strange one because as away kit was white with a red stripe, which when you think about it, when we wear red and white stripes at home, who thought it was a good idea to have an away kit which was white with one big red stripe going down the side? There were always going to be a need for a third shirt, but for whatever reason, Macron, they didn't do one. And then hastily at the last minute, looked like they knocked up a training kit, put a Sheff United badge on it and banged the sponsors on and went, there you go, there's a third kit. So, you know, again, an awful shirt. And that was,
am I right that we're talking about the one that is grey with luminous green that looked like a training kit in terms of that one? That was, I think, never worn, and I think that was also this one. Yes, that Danny's now holding up exactly like I said, 2010-11. Good, I've not gone mad.
There's the grey. Yeah, never wore it. Yeah, it was a strange one. That it's an interesting colour scheme as well. To be fair, a strange grey with lime green.
I don't mind it anyway. You know,
I think it's terrible.
I don't mind it. You know, as I said before, I've got a sort of thing for a garish kit that's a bit out there with the yellow and brown. But it was a season before when the sort of 125 years, was it? And they brought out the one that had every single player that had played for the club. Sort of.
That's another one.
Yeah, that's the one. And obviously they never wore that. Instead, the players wore a really, really, I won't swear, but a really, really crappy version of it. That is essentially the thinnest thing you will ever see, with the worst quality stitched on badge you will ever see. It's absolutely terrible. You wouldn't see a Sunday League team wearing it. Honestly, it's horrendous. When we got our hands on it, you're thinking, how has a Championship football team worn this? And there it is. There's 𝗍𝗿𝗀𝗋s in a size large boys.
Oh, it looks totally different.
Yeah, it's a completely different shirt. So for some reason, they couldn't wear the one that had all the names in them. I don't know if that was a football league thing or whether it counts as an extra, design thing. I've no idea on that one. But they wore the really rubbish, really terribly stitched plain black one, and that never went on sale either, I don't think. So if anyone has one of those, it's it's the real deal, a player issued or player worn version. So yeah, there's plenty of trivia. There's really trivial trivia that we can tell you about shirts. Nobody ever listened, but we can tell you about it.
No, they're listening now. And I will say that if you are listening to this as an audio podcast, I highly recommend watching it as well. This has become a very visual episode. And if you are really bored one day, my name, Hal's my middle name, but Alexander Stewart is my proper name, is actually on this shirt, which was pointed out to me by my dad. And I've no idea if there was an Alexander Stewart that once played for Sheffield United. I have to assume there was. Or if my dad really did have some pull at beautiful downtown Bramall Lane and managed to get my name on it. But it's more than likely the first option. This is the most important question. So, Danny, that means I'm going to throw it to you. And we're coming close to the end of our time. So if people have been listening to us talk about legends at the Lane and they want to get hold of the book, how, sir, can they do it?
It reminds me of the old Soccer AM joke. It's available in all good bookshops and rubbish ones as well. 𝗤𝗏𝒻𝒐𝒻𝒂𝒐.com is the best place for us to buy it from. Obviously, direct from the publishers, where myself and Pete, if you so wish, will scribble in a copy if you want one for Christmas or birthdays or christenings, bar mitzvahs, whatever. We can certainly oblige with a message, within reason. Yeah. You'll be supporting
such an unnecessary addition to honestly, that lovely statement.
You should see some of the messages that we get requested.
Oh, really? Oh, okay.
Yeah. So I like to put that in there just in case. But
the message you wrote to me was thanks for all your support, which I think's fine.
Yeah, that's not so bad. Honestly, there's some that are incredibly bizarre. But yeah, 𝗤𝗏𝒻𝒂𝒐.com, which is the publisher, that's my company, is the best place to get them from. We'll ship them out to you. Like I say, if you want, we can scribble our names in there. The perfect Christmas gift for a loved one or someone that you don't like.
Or someone you don't like. But I mean, you two have worked together on this. Pete, would you ever work with Danny again? Sometimes I say never work with a friend.
No. It was an absolute pleasure. It was great. When you're doing something like this, which is your hobby, and obviously you find somebody who's on the same level as you that loves that same thing as well. Obviously, we bored our other halves to death at times because we were talking and rattling, and they must have been looking at us going, "What are you talking about? What? How can you talk about a piece of material for so long and just carry on and on and on and on?" But no, I'd do it again, but I don't know. Maybe in 50 years or so, when there's another 50-year stretch to do of Sheff United shirts.
So now,
but I think we've touched them all.
I'm still doing this in 50 years. Something's gone very wrong.
That's what we try and say, isn't it? If anyone's just thinking this is just a book of pictures of shirts, that's not quite the case. We tried to give people some sort of depth to it and some structure to it. Yeah, it was like, I know you asked Pete this question, but it was an unbelievable experience to do. Really enjoyed putting it all together, and just the feeling of having for a geek like me. Pete talked about the shirt over his left shoulder. We had, at one point, we had Bobby Davison's shirt he wore in that game to score those 2 goals on his debut. We had Brian Dean's shirt from the first Premier League goal. I had Mark Duffy's shirt from Hillsborough and the boots he used to score that goal in the boot of my car. And he said to me, if you lose these, I'll kill you. And I believed it. I felt a certain weight. Pete will tell you how nervous I was about getting broken. Because these things could not be replaced. There was absolutely no chance. We had shirts from Leicester away. We ended up with 3 or 4 shirts from that game. I mean, out of 13 that got worn, we ended up with 3 or 4 in the book. Darlington, we ended up with Keith Edwards' shirt from that game. And these are like items of United history in your hands. I held a shirt from the 25 cup final, the 36 cup final. You know, it's getting up to 100 years ago now for the first one. And these, you know, these things are special, you know, when you hold them in your hand. Yeah, so it was a pleasure. And we owe a lot of thanks to people who helped us out, you know, with those. There's too many to mention here, but even players got involved. We talked about Bash earlier. He lent me a ton of his shirts because he collects, you know, one every season. I said Mark Duffy before, he lent us quite a few. You know, Dane Whitehouse met us. Brian Dean wrote the forward. We spoke to Chris Morgan. You know, there were so many people, you know, that we need to thank for this, and quite humble that they gave us our time and, you know, kind of indulged our strange little hobby and our strange little interest in sort of documenting, you know, these shirts. So yeah, it was really good to see it, you know, in real life when it finally all came together. And you know, looking here now, I've got shirt books here from all manner of clubs, and it was good to add Sheffield United to that list because, you know, I said before, it's a special football club, and I think it deserves it.
Yeah, if there's one place you can be biased, it is the Sheff United way. Danny Hall, it's been an absolute pleasure. I'm really glad we finally got to do this. Let's try not to leave it another 9 years. And Pete O'Leary, also virtually to meet you, it's been an absolute pleasure, and well done both of you for putting this together. It's something you should really be proud of. It's fantastic. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thanks, Al. Cheers. Thank you.